Coming up on this week's episode of the Mindscaped Podcast.
In South Africa, 81% of grade 4 students cannot read for meaning. This is not my statistic. It's the Pearls report, which is an international report study, Department of Basic Education.
Grade 4 is how old?
Grade 4 is 10-year-old. This is the end of junior primary school.
Is it reading for meaning? Meaning
So they can
understanding
read
what they read.
They can read, Mindscaped.
Okay.
They can read Milk. They can read essentially, the studies are they can read about as much as you have in a tweet.
Okay.
These digital natives are born and, they're working differently. I said, well, if we evolve that fast, we'd all have longer thumbs by now. Right?
We're actually all growing extra fingers.
We're growing, okay. And
to
we're
hold our phones.
Exactly, right? So we can't evolve that quickly and that in a space of less than a generation.
But the world we're living in right now is evolving all the time so fast.
The world is evolving, but is our mindset and what we're doing.
Our mental capacity isn't.
So to be a bestseller in South Africa, in some categories, you need to sell, not a bestseller, but a reasonable seller. You only need to sell in the region of about 7,000 to 10,000 books.
That's it.
The whole of South Africa, 60 million plus people, right? If you can sell 7,000 to 10,000 books, you are in the top selling books.
Welcome to the Mindscaped Podcast. Politics, environment, history, mental health, business, religion, people, and philosophy. Escape to the real world.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of the Mindscape Podcast with me, Shaheen and Nazir. It has been an incredible journey. We've been really busy chatting to our guest today, Mohamed Kharwa. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us on Mindscape Podcast.
Jazakallah for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So one of your daylight your stuff that you do at night, Superman in the morning and somebody else at night. But one of the other things you do is you involved quite a lot in books, right? Now Shaheen, if you want to buy this man a gift, you buy him a book.
Right.
His pastime is books. My pastime is watching podcasts.
Wait, and porn.
And so one of the interesting concepts I think we chatted about this is about literacy rates in the country and globally. And I said because people don't know more reading, but then on the other hand, I do all the videos for these clips, right? I'm always putting subtitles because that's what the algorithm saves, so that people who are watching generally don't watch audio, they watch and they're reading. So people are reading. Right?
So
or has books really died?
There's a program called Switch on the Subtitles. I think it's called SW something, like the acronym for it, right?
Right.
Which is saying that what we need to do is when we have things on TV, we need to actually switch on the subtitles so people can learn and practice how to read, especially for kids.
So it's actually helping people.
It's actually helping people read.
I actually know someone who's actually learned Afrikaans.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from watching.
From reading.
Watching.
Right. But so there's the one where you switch on the subtitles in your language, so you are listening but you are reading. The other one is just straightforward reading.
Okay.
So to encourage people and kids to be able to improve their reading, they say switch on the subtitles. So you want the stats first. I know you're a numbers person, right? So the first thing is in South Africa, 81% of grade 4 students cannot read for meaning. This is not my statistic. It's the Pearls report, which is an international report study, Department of Basic Education.
Grade 4 is how old?
Grade 4 is 10-year-old. This is the end of junior primary school.
Is it reading for meaning? Meaning
So they can
understanding
read
what they read.
They can read, Mindscaped.
Okay.
They can read Milk. They can read essentially, the studies are they can read about as much as you have in a tweet.
Okay.
Right? 3-4 lines. They get through life. You're going to get through life fine.
Yeah.
But that's your ability to read is purely for the function of being able to do something. That's the 80%, right? And that's a grade, or 81% grade 4. That statistic used to be 79% about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So it's not going the right way, it's going the wrong way. Right, okay. So that's the first statistic. Second statistic that I like to kind of project from there. When we get to grade 10 level, 64% of kids drop out of school at grade 10. So 100 kids start grade 1.
We're talking about South Africa?
South Africa, right? So grade 1, 100 kids start in that you pick 100 kids.
Yeah.
Out of that cohort of 100, you're going to have 81% who can't read for meaning at grade 4. You get 64% who drop off at grade 10. So now you've got 36 odd who are writing matric. Maybe I'm a couple of percent out here and there, right? Of those who write the grade 12 exam, you have now got our pass rate.
Okay.
How many qualify for higher education? Out
Yeah.
of the number qualify for higher education, I think it's somewhere between 9 and 11.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And out of those, the number that finish a degree in 6 years is 3.
That's
So-
3%, 3 out of 100.
3 out of 100. So we've got a shortage of spaces in university. If we fix our problems, we're going to have a much bigger problem
Wait, you said you have a shortage of spaces in
in university. So everybody's fighting for we need
Yeah,
more
yeah,
space in
yeah.
university, or whatever
Yes,
it is.
yeah.
But that's where we're only getting those 11 odd people who are actually entering it.
And that's including UNISA and all of them.
That's including UNISA and everybody else, right? So when we start talking about, they're now starting to build more universities, we are about 20 years too late, all right? Because we really, really needed to do this 20 years ago, right?
But then that still leads to the next problem of job employment. Because there's, like, for example, the environmental field, I've got tons of graduates,
Yes.
all got the degrees, no jobs.
That's a whole different debate.
I'm just saying, but it's still, I'm saying now that's one. There's
now
another got the degree. The 3% the 3% who got the degree
You're right.
don't have the opportunity to get a work
Exactly,
experience.
right.
Yeah.
So now you come back to the whole thing about the quality of the education is different.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is the problem. You get that 80% who can't read at grade 4. We may be fixing 20% of them by grade 10.
Sorry, before you go on.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is that the lack of motivation from teachers? Parents are motivating the kids?
Right. So I was at the National Reading Summit speaking there earlier this year, right? And they're doing these studies as to what the reason is. So here's the other statistics. If I'm correct, 50% of homes in South Africa don't have more than one book in them.
How many books do you have besides the Quran?
I have plenty. I got a whole shelf now.
Okay.
Right?
All
Then
good
you
as
start talking about the statistic that some other interesting numbers. Teachers and their reading ability is something which nobody wants to test because the unions don't like the idea of somebody saying, well, how good are our teachers at actually reading themselves, right?
So this goes back to lack of education.
Now you have this self-fulfilling cycle, right? I was at a meeting with one of the politicians, and he was a minister of education, one of the provinces.
So not lack of quality of education.
Quality of education. So he said he went to the university. The university came and said, "Oh, you all are producing really, really bad quality students for us to be able to use." And he says, "Well, guess where our teachers are trained."
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? You giving me bad quality teachers. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a cycle that you kind of reinforce, right?
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. Now, in that entire mix, we then have to say, another interesting statistic for a different day, don't go down this road, is apparently 60% of our grade 6 teachers can't score more than 60% in the grade 6 exam
That they're teaching.
that they're teaching.
Yes.
And we can't go down this road. Why did you open this door?
Go down that.
Because we're talking reading. Let's not talk numeracy today. Right? Let's talk reading because what the other studies are.
Are we
is
talking
that-
across the board as in public and private schools?
across the board, right? So I've come across kids who come from homes where the parents are professionals, family members are all highly qualified professionals, and you see a grade 4 kid, and it came out through one of the family members and said they've never finished a book. They're going to a X Model C type school, good quality school. They've got a library, they've got everything else and whatnot. Okay, right. But they've never finished a book because nobody actually sits there and says, read the book and get through the words. And the first time they finished a book was at grade 4, grade 5 level, right? Because somebody took the time to sit with them and make them read the book from cover to cover. 79% of schools in South Africa don't have a library. 79% don't have a library. That figure is about 90% in Eastern Cape and I think Limpopo or Mpumalanga, one of those two, right?
Reason being lack of funds or lack of interest?
Not really, yeah.
Well, that's the big question. One is the lack of funds, but the other one is it's not prioritized. Why? Because we need to be able to get a curriculum. We need to be able to get go through these steps. So nobody's actually, again, you can't, there's almost automatic progression for kids between grade 1 to 4. You can't fail grade 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So if you've got a problem with a child who can't read it at a grade 1 level at the end of grade 1,
It's passed on.
they've moved into grade 2. The rest of the class is moving forward. You now have to either find a way to correct it and put some remedial action in there to get them to catch up, or you're going to get them into grade 3. So I had a young, my daughter's friend, she was doing teaching, she was doing her student block. She says, I'm teaching at a public school, I'm teaching grade 7 intermediary level. I've got a kid in the class, she says he can't read. but I've got 40 kids in the class. I don't have the time to fix it. And her words, it's not that he's not a smart kid. He's a smart kid. But he doesn't have the reading. His family, there are people at home who can do it, but it is now too late to fix it. You can fix it, but you're going to basically be trying to patch a problem rather than the foundational stuff. So we've covered some of those stats. What are the other ones that will be interesting in this conversation? Numeracy is largely dependent on comprehension. If I can't read the problem problem
solving,
right? I can't understand what the question is and how and what data I need to use to be able to fix to answer the numeracy.
Even in math lit, lots of it is storytelling.
Is storytelling, right? You know, you have a car. This is how much you got to pay. This is the whatever rate. This is whatever, or the train leaves from station A and going to those kind of things. You're going to be able to unwrap the literacy to be able to fix the maths. So. Can we leave the maths one now? You understand why we're leaving that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's fix the reading, right?
But here's the question then. Is this a fair assessment of the level of education of the country? Because the question I would ask is, where are these people who are they just all going into menial work? Those who don't have these degrees and so on.
So I've said this on a couple of platforms. Most recently, it was with our MEC for social welfare and the MEC for social welfare and the MEC for economics were at a meeting, business meeting, and he was saying, people have come out